First thing I want to point out, notice the mode key here. Sometimes people play with the modes and then wonder why things come out looking kind of funny. So I'm just going to go through briefly about the things that you will need to be changing, most regularly. Now you'll notice what's blinking is where we are selected at the moment. So that lets us know where our cursor is. Right now it's in what's known as normal mode, which is just your normal calculator mode. The SCI stands for scientific and ENG stands for engineering. And I would recommend, unless your class requires you to use otherwise, just leave it in the normal mode. I'd also recommend just leaving this on float. This does like a forced rounding for you. So if you have a class where you're always rounding to 3 decimal places, then you'll want to go ahead and you can do this, and no matter what, it'll round it to 3 decimal places. So have this number, check it out, it rounded it to 3 decimal places for me. But sometimes you don't want to have it rounded to 3 decimal places, that's kind of irritating. Why didn't it just leave it at 6? It's because you told it always show me 3 decimal places. So we'll go back up to our mode, leave that just on float. Float just means whatever it comes out as, it's just going to leave it alone. So if you ever do need to force it to round for you, that is how you will do it. If you do anything trigonometric, like any trig functions, you do need to know whether you're in radian or degree mode, and just choose accordingly. So right now I'm on degree, but it's easy enough to switch to radian. Next one has to do with your graphing. You can either do function graphing, parametric, polar, or sequential, and we're just going to leave with function, and we'll use that in just a minute. When you're plotting, you can either have connected dots or just dots. You can either do it sequentially on your graph, so this is with graphing as well. So if I have 2 different graphs, it'll graph one line first and then the second one, versus simultaneously we'll just graph them at the same time, so that's just a personal preference. The next one deals with how do you want your numbers to look, either in real mode or the a plus bi for imaginary or another form of imaginary. Once again, leave it on real unless your class requires you to do otherwise. We won't mess with that. I recommend leaving this on math print and on the first here, n divided by d. In your answers, you want to leave this on auto. I'll show you what this will do. If you put this on decimal, then it will, if you started with a fraction, it'll automatically make it a decimal. This one can be useful if you know your answer always has to be in fractions. Just tell it, hey, if at all possible, force this to be a fraction. Remember my example from earlier, what's 25 divided by 20? We know from earlier that was 5 divided by 4, but here, I won't have to convert it back. It does it automatically for me, but I can't make it stop. It's going to try to find, it's going to convert it over to a fraction even if I started with a decimal. So if you want a decimal, this is not the right mode for you. So use that if you would like. At least now you know where to find it. I recommend leaving it on auto unless you really need to do otherwise. This is if we want to format the graph, which we do not. If we take yes, it would take us to a different menu. And we will not be doing anything with stats or setting the clock right now. So it's kind of a brief rundown of what the modes are. If you have any questions, come back to this screen and then set things kind of how they look here. And that'd be a good starting point for you.